Between Only God Forgives, Much Ado About Nothing, and now this, I'm just blazing through the movies that no one watched. Alright, Before Midnight, for those of you who don't know, is actually the third in a trilogy. So if you haven't seen the other two, which was Before Sunrise and Before Sunset, which are both fantastic movies, definitely go check those out. Even like the plot summary will kind of spoil what happens there, so don't watch this if you haven't seen the other two. Before Midnight was directed by Richard Lanklater. It stars Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, and it pretty much tells the story of I'll pretty much have to explain the other two to explain this one. So in Before Sunrise, Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, they meet on a train, and then they kind of decide to spend the night together, and then they say, we're gonna meet here in 6 months. And then the next movie takes place 9 years later. It was actually released 9 years later, Before Sunset. The boy, Ethan Hawke, wrote a book about it, and it's like a bestseller. He's doing a tour in Europe, and he meets her on it. Turns out he went back 6 months later, and she didn't. So that was kind of bad for him. And then they kind of have another night, and then he's like, oh, I have to take... He's about to go, so he's like, I have to catch my train and everything. And then that movie ends with, like, him deciding to miss his train. Then it kind of leaves it again, and this movie took place another, 10 years later, and it came out another 9 years later. It literally went 1995, 2004, and now 2013. And now we see that the two characters are married, and they have children. This capped off the series perfectly. I think it might be my favorite of the thing. They're all fantastic movies. You should really check them out if you haven't. They're really, really interesting because there's not really much going on. There's not much of a plot. It's just kind of these characters sitting around talking about stuff, and it's just really, really interesting to watch. The director, Richard Lanklater, I don't know actually, Lanklater, I believe, he wrote it, at least the second two. He didn't write the first one with him, but he wrote the second two with the stars, so they have a complete understanding of these characters, the entire screenplay. They know exactly where it's going. Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy are fantastic. They're so great, especially both of them. I want to say Ethan Hawke, but Julie Delpy is also really, really great. But in case you were losing faith in Ethan Hawke because of The Purge and Getaway, don't worry, he really brings it in this movie. He's great. They bring a lot of emotion. As a couple, they just have so much chemistry. They're probably my favorite movie couple of all time. Julie Delpy acts really, really well because there's kind of, unlike the other ones, there is kind of a conflict a little bit in this one. They kind of start to have a few problems, which I don't really have the other ones. They do, but not really. This one they do have problems, and she gets really emotional. It's really good. Ethan Hawke is great too, as I've said. The director's Lanklater, I don't want to say his name because I feel like I'm saying it wrong. The director, Richard Lanklater, he doesn't really do anything flashy like Edgar Wright in The World's End, but it's nice. It's very modest. You just get long shots of the characters. You cut to the right character at the right time to see how they're reacting to this, and you can really understand the characters. As I said before, the screenplay is fantastic, written by the three of them. It's just really realistic. Really, really realistic. They bring up a lot of questions and just topics that you probably have talked about with your friends, and there's really, really interesting kind of about what living is like. So yeah, it's just really well written, really well acted, pretty much good directed. It's just, there's not enough of a plot to give me an A+. I'm going to give Before Midnight an A-. Okay. Actually, you know what? I'm giving Before Midnight an A. I don't even care. Before Midnight gets an A. And next we have We're the Millers. See you next time.